Chapter 29. Greater Things. They held a funeral the following afternoon. It was a private affair. The Garens were all there along with Kent, Xander, and Xander's wife, who shed the most tears. The rest of them had nothing left. It was unusual watching Bill without his entourage. The only other people in attendance were Pastors Jack and Luke. The latter had given him his condolences. Jordan could barely look him in the eye. In fact, Jordan struggled to look any of them in the eye. It had been almost a full day, and no one had raised their voice. No one had chewed him out or scolded him or barred him from even being a part of the ceremony. It didn't matter. Shame was not even the right word to describe how he felt. For the first time in his life, even after the loss of 4 parents, 6 if he included his birth parents, and the disappearance of his only brother, Jordan's purpose had been completely sucked away, gone with the light from Margot's eyes. She had named him Jason, after her brother. The Garens, who were by law the child's grandparents, made the arrangements to bury him within the city, on a plot Bill had been saving in case Wendy changed her mind about being buried in Texas. He was clearly distraught, but standing there in the wind watching him, Jordan realized the Prime Minister had set aside his position to care for his family. The full story about his adopted daughter was bound to spread immediately. Tylersville had no organized media, so anyone who knew could pass the story as officially as possible. But in that moment, public opinion was the last thing on Bill Guerin's mind. For the first time, Jordan felt the Prime Minister embrace him, and as dirt began to fall over the foot-long box, he collapsed against his chest and found his emotions again. Otherwise, nobody spoke to him. Not that Jordan would have wanted them to. Emma and Margot had spent the first night in the hospital, and were planning on spending at least the remainder of the week at the mansion. He had returned home alone. He had nowhere else but the common room, but the closed door to his bedroom froze him in place. He planted himself on the couch, the remote stationary on the table in front of him, but he could not move beyond staring at his own reflection in the black mirror. Even when Kent returned home, he took one look at Jordan and let him be. Of course, the mission was postponed. It would take at least until the end of the week to train an adult squad for the emergency replacement, and at that point, their whole inclusion to spark a determined search for Johnny would exist as a pipe dream. More than likely, things would be cancelled altogether. All because of you, his reflection reminded. In the warped picture on the screen, he could no longer see the scars which defined his face. "Is this who you think you are?" he taunted. "If your mom and Johnny weren't dead before, they certainly are now." They hadn't let him see Margot until after the surgery. He wished they hadn't. There was no life left in her body by the time they took Jason away. Add 2 more to your list. He tried to draw himself away from the mirror, only to cast his gaze to the picture shelf. Since the last time he had paid it any mind, Margot had added to the bare space. Most notably, a picture of Liz laughing in a canoe, no doubt taken during their trip to the mountains. She might still be alive too if you think about it. "Shut up!" he screamed, but when he closed his eyes he was haunted by the squad above them. 2 of their members were just as guilty as him. There was no sleep on either of those nights. He made it through 2 classes on Thursday before he could no longer take the staring. Especially without Margot, the story had spread like wildfire. Everyone's eyes held the same judgmental look of curiosity, asking the question Jordan still had no definitive answer to. How long do I have? No one really seemed to know. It happened every few years or so, according to the rumors. Jordan felt certain it had been a lot longer since a mission was cancelled because of it. But Margot was incapable of even attending school, much less handle traveling halfway around the world, so what choice could possibly remain? He wondered if they had to verify Jason's parentage. Margot had legally given the baby his last name, so he was as good as marked. If that was really what they were waiting for, then could he postpone the inevitable by denying it as long as possible? The idea lasted only a second before he shook his head in disgust. Margot had been through enough already. He didn't need to bury himself early by desecrating what was left of her public image. She was his until the end. He knew that completely. Even if he could, he realized waiting for dismissal was the worst possible option. He tried to imagine spending another month finishing the school year, all the while trying to ignore the fact that once his time was up, none of his friends would ever see him again. It'd be better to rip the bandage off now, to disappear into nothingness, let the embassy take him out back and drop him on the spot. The shame blended together with the fear of the unknown. They'd read a book in middle school about a society that rid itself of unwanted persons by releasing them, making a grand ceremony about going off to another part of the world, when in reality that person was taken behind closed doors and executed. Which would it be with him? The company was as pro-life as could be within its own walls, but Jordan had in some twisted way crippled one of their citizens and indirectly caused another to die. In their eyes, he was the perfect candidate for trying out the death penalty. And if that wasn't it, then where would he go? Would he wake up one day in the middle of nowhere on the other side of the globe? How much would he remember? Would he even be able to communicate with anyone who found him? Or would he be left to die? Then there was the world he was going to leave behind. Sure, he had scarred Margot's life forever. It'd be impossible for her to forget him, but would she remember the rest of it? The times before he destroyed her body? Her life, her reputation? What about Kent? In Johnny's absence, Kent had become his best friend. Would he remember any of that either? Or was Jordan set to become a footnote in his career with the company? In 10 years, would Kent think of him as anything beyond one of his freshman classmates? And Johnny. Now part of Jordan hoped his brother was dead. He didn't think he could face him with what had happened. They'd gone 3 months without speaking because of a stupid party. How much longer could Johnny hold it against him when he learned about Jason? Would Johnny forgive him if he stayed long enough to tell him in person? Or was Johnny bound to hear it from someone else? God forbid his mother came back too. Unable to sit with his thoughts, Jordan found his way to the embassy, for no plainer reason than to surrender himself. Forth from the top was the Ministry of Law, and there he presented himself before the woman at the front desk and confessed. She sat there unconvinced. "Sir, I'm sorry," she stated. "There's not really much I can do for, or against you, until the case has been properly investigated." "Oh, you don't need to investigate," he admitted. "I did it, just lock me up or something until it's time to go." The woman was almost sympathetic. "Your honesty is admirable," she stated. "But there's an order of things that has to occur prior to a final decision like that. The only options I can give you are to speak with your missions leader and continue your days like normal." "Like normal?" he raised, trying not to let his voice become a shout. "They're going to execute me. Do you have any idea what that feels like? I can't just wait for them to make a decision." She remained unperturbed. "Sir, the best I can do for you is put in a meeting list with Miss Tanner. Otherwise, your best option is to talk to a psychology professional through the Ministry of Health." He started, then paused, thinking about the name. "Who?" "Pema Tanner," she clarified. "She's a deputy undersecretary who deals a lot with underage crimes. Given the severity of your case, I don't think there are any deals she can make in your favor, but she might be able to give you more options than me." Pema Tanner, Jordan repeated internally. He knew the name, but how he was unsure. "When can she's taking a personal afternoon," the secretary explained. "I can put you on a wait list for tomorrow. Otherwise, the best I can do guaranteed is next Tuesday." Jordan sighed. "Nothing with the minister?" She almost laughed. "First guarantee I can grant you is in a month's time. Minister Rantanen is a busy man." "Fine," he scoffed. "Put me in for Tuesday." She took his phone number in case of an opening the next day. Then Jordan returned to the elevator lobby, a plan in place, but still dissatisfied with his options. As soon as he pressed the button to go down, one of the elevators opened, its indicator light signaling up. 3 men walked out, leaving only one person headed to the upper floors. It was Shane Daniels. Without thinking, Jordan rushed inside. "Mr. De La Rue?" Shane said casually, unfazed by Jordan's erratic movement. Shane reached forward, selecting one of the buttons below the top few floors. "Finish it," Jordan begged. "Excuse me?" "Me," he doubled. "Poison me. Execute me. Whatever you're going to do to me, just get it over with. I can't take waiting anymore." The door opened to one of the foreign affairs floors. Shane took a quick glance behind Jordan's shoulder, then cocked his head and narrowed his eyes. "Walk down the hallway and come back," he instructed. Jordan scowled. "What?" "Walk out of the elevator," Shane said slowly. "Head to the left, stop at the end of the hallway, then come back." Jordan turned, seeing no one else on the floor, then turned around again. "Why would I do that?" "Because the Deputy Prime Minister ordered you to," Shane commanded. As odd as the instruction was, something inside him was curious enough to obey. Without a second thought, Jordan turned out of the elevator, half expecting it to close behind him. He faced left and walked the length of the hallway to the stairwell door at its end, and then turned back, finding Shane still waiting with his back against the elevator wall. When he returned, Shane closed the door. "What was that about?" Jordan inquired. The deputy faced him with intention for the first time. "Your formal investigation made my job twice as hard," he declared openly. "That just made it 10 times easier." A puzzled look must have crossed Jordan's face, based on Shane's smirk. "In other words, don't worry about it." The door opened on the penultimate floor. "Come on," he instructed again. Jordan followed him through the floor's main lobby, which was surprisingly empty for what he expected on a weekday. Against the back wall, Shane opened a door and led him into his office. Jordan stood awkwardly until Shane sat down behind his desk, gesturing for him to take one of the chairs on the other side. He folded his hands over the wooden top. "We're not going to execute you," he said plainly. "I don't know where that rumor started, but in all honesty, letting people believe it helps keep them in line, so if you wouldn't mind not clarifying that for others, I'd highly appreciate it." Jordan's voice caught in his throat. For a second, he dared to hope. "You mean," he managed. "You're not out of the woods," Shane clarified, and a weight fell back to its resting place atop Jordan's shoulders. "Obviously, you know the punishment." His face fell to his lap. "Then just get it over with," he whispered. "Are you that quick to give up?" Shane scoffed. Jordan raised his head, feeling tears well in his eyes again. "What's left for me here?" he sobbed. "What can I possibly do while I wait for you to send me away? Everyone's going to forget me anyway." "I'm not talking about you giving up your life," Shane stated. Jordan swallowed, confused. "Then what? You're really going to give up on your mother?" Shane toiled. "On Johnny?" Jordan almost laughed. "What choice do I have?" he muttered in disbelief. "I destroyed any chance we had of finding him with Margot." Shane looked at him piteously for a moment, then wheeled to his computer and began frantically typing on his keyboard. He clicked open a file, then turned the screen to Jordan. "What I'm about to show you does not leave this office. Is that understood?" he ordered. Jordan was struggling to make out anything in the grainy still. Shane corrected. "No one in your squad. Is that understood?" "What are you—" he began to think, but froze when Shane played the footage. In illuminated black and white, Jordan could see a white shape come into view from the left of frame. The figure, clearly a person, looked up at the sky in the opposite direction of the camera. As soon as he began to move, 3 more figures emerged from just right of the frame, with a shape and a sound like a metal door closing behind them. The smallest of the 3, a boy he realized, held out his hand, causing the first person to stumble backward toward the trio. An elementalist, he realized, his mind racing back to the pair he had killed in Beijing. The first figure, another boy, Jordan realized, was struck hard in the face by another in the trio, while the last bagged his head. They pulled the boy to his feet and dragged him across the ground toward the camera, but just feet from the door he collapsed. The audio was grainy, but the woman's words came out clear as could be. "Are you kidding me, Sparks?" The boy raised his covered head. "Please," he begged, the voice unmistakably Johnny's. "I can't—" The woman slugged him again, knocking him unconscious. The trio picked up his limp body and dragged him inside. Jordan felt his mouth drop. Shane pulled the screen back toward him, stoic as ever. When he finally found his breath, Jordan choked. "When?" "Yesterday," Shane claimed. "We intercepted the transmission amidst layers of hacked bank passwords. Can't be more than a week old." He tried to steady himself. He's alive," he shuddered. "Where?" "We don't know," Shane admitted. "Obviously, judging by the video, it's somewhere arid, but that could be literally anywhere." He placed his hands back on the desk. "All we know for certain is that of a week ago, he was still alive. And the only lead we have beyond this video is his tracker." "What? He could be anywhere," Jordan cursed. "That didn't look anywhere near the jungle. Can't you do something to—" Shane slammed his hands down on the desk so hard that Jordan felt something liquid spray onto his face. He held his tongue as he wiped the mix of sweat from his eyes, finding the Deputy Prime Minister staring intensely over the desktop. Expecting him to yell, Shane instead took a deep breath to calm himself, the look in his eyes relaxing with patience. "What if I told you that you could still get him back?" Before Jordan could respond, he added, Your squad. I can pull strings to send you off on this mission. I can't guarantee that you'll find him, but it's still one step closer to bringing him back." A quick breath. "Maybe even your mom, too." Jordan's heartbeat, which had continued to accelerate the entire time in the office, was now in full sprint. "But," he began, trying to put together everything Shane had just told him. Johnny was alive, he believed. There was no other truth. The rest of the world could have tried to convince him otherwise, but if Shane believed it, then so did he. What about Margot? Shane grinned. It was my understanding your squad had a substitute during training, he said. Given the circumstances and the severity this company is still placing on getting your brother back, I think arrangements can be made to justify a mission replacement. Jordan's breath felt cold. But Emma believes he's still alive, same as you do, Shane went on. We still can't authorize the mission without full squad consent. How? If you're all ready and willing, we can confirm the mission for as early as next week. Same plan, only a few adjustments. Jordan's eyes were wide in comprehension. Shane added, I'm pulling every string I have to get you one last chance of finding him before you leave. The least you can do is say you'll try. He felt himself nodding emphatically. All right, then, Shane grinned. One last favor. Exit out the stairwell, will you? This final order confused him. Sir? The stairwell, Shane repeated, rising from his chair and walking to one of the side walls. Seated on a countertop, Shane pulled on a figurine of the Stanford Cardinal, triggering an entire door-sized section of the wall to come undone. The seams were so well disguised in the pattern of the wall, he never would have noticed. Shane pulled the wall open to reveal a back stairwell. 19 floors, he announced. I should have had your brother do the same. It really helped me out. To Jordan's bewilderment, his feet led him to the stairs without question. And by the time he reached the ground level, his legs exhausted, he had completely forgotten his need to question the order in the first place. There were more pressing matters on his mind. Most importantly, he needed to talk to Margot. He took the monorail toward the mansion and walked up to the main gate, regretting his choice of a sweatshirt on an unusually hot afternoon. I'm here to see Margot Dreyer, he stated to the guard. I think she's still staying here. 1 second, the man returned, picking up a phone to dial the house. Jordan held his breath, half expecting to be turned away as the conversation went on longer than expected. Finally, the man hung up the phone. Wait here, please, he instructed. It was the first time he had been to the house without being led in or turned away. His confusion only increased when the Prime Minister came out to the front door to personally escort him to the house. Confusion turned to shock when Bill Guerin welcomed him with a hug. You doing all right? He offered. Of course not, Jordan replied honestly. Bill gave him a sad smile. I don't blame you, he consoled. The law is the law, but... The Prime Minister stopped himself, clearly wanting to say something but thinking better of it. Wendy's still a bit distraught about it all, he explained. I mean, we all are, really, but she's more, he struggled to find the right word. Conservative about the whole thing, if you will. Jordan looked down to the Prime Minister. She doesn't want me talking to Margot, does she? The Prime Minister grinned another melancholic grin. Right, he confirmed. They wouldn't have even let you through the gate if I didn't convince her to let me take the call instead. Jordan only then realized they were walking around the house, not toward it. Even then, Margot's sleeping, Bill explained. I can't imagine what you're going through, nor can I put myself in her shoes. To be honest, For a moment, Jordan thought the Prime Minister was going to say the words, I don't blame you, but he turned his head toward the back of the house and kept his mouth closed. Then why are we... Jordan began. Emma's in the back, Bill cleared, continuing on around the house. Just as he said, Emma was dressed in a black tank and shorts, her yellow hair tied back in a ponytail which hung over her browning shoulders. She was 20 meters downfield from a target, throwing knives with her left hand. Each one hit the target as near to the center as she could possibly get. She pulled each out of the wood, then froze when she spotted Jordan at the edge of the yard. The knives tumbled out of her hand in surprise. To his amusement, she stood still for what must have been a minute or more, before spotting her father and unfreezing, picking up the knives at her feet. The Prime Minister bid him farewell and left him to march around the pool to Emma's side. What are you doing? He asked. What does it look like I'm doing? She retorted. I'm practicing. Jordan grinned. I've never seen you practice before. Yeah, well... Her eyes flitted nervously around the yard. You must not have been paying attention. You know I've been training for years. She turned to the target, grilling the center with another knife. Her hands were shaking, her eyes apparently avoiding him at all costs. Emma, I'm still me, he bartered. Just because I'm leaving doesn't mean you have to be afraid of me or something. She grimaced into a smile, taking a breath and hitting another bullseye before turning to face him. Her nervousness was gone. "I'm not afraid of you because of what you did," she admitted. "I'm pissed because you killed my sister and you killed her kid." Jordan bit his tongue. "He was my kid too," he stated, almost proudly. "You think I wouldn't have done anything in my power to save him if I knew something was wrong?" Emma grunted, throwing her third knife. "I guess we'll never know, will we?" She turned to retrieve the knives, but Jordan rushed to follow. "And Margot's not dead." "Well, she might as well be." Emma turned back, her face red with fury. "How do you think she'll ever recover from this, huh?" "You don't think I've been worrying about that for the last 3 days?" "I don't know, have you?" Emma screamed. "Tell me, Jordan, you knew this could happen. Me, Johnny, I'm sure your mom at one point too told you all about what would happen when things inevitably went wrong. And still, you didn't just once stop to think, maybe I should keep it in my pants, did you? Not once did you even think about the fact that something could go wrong. Just one little mistake, and now look around you. It's not just you and Margot, Jordy, it's all of us. Do you think I ever thought I'd have to bury my niece or nephew? Or my parents? You know that's like burying their grandkid, don't you? And don't even get me started on Dad's job. He might as well dig another hole in the ground for his career. Because once Richmond gets a hold of this, he's going to bury Dad too. If we're still in this house a year from now, I'd be shocked. And that's all because you never stopped to consider, maybe not tonight." "Emma," he choked. It wasn't my... "Don't you dare say it wasn't my fault," she screamed. In truth, that was not what he intended to say, but Emma would never believe his words anyway, especially not right now. "You're right," he apologized. "I'm sorry." Emma laughed. "Don't even start with me," she huffed, ripping the knives out of the wood and trudging off toward the house. Without hesitation, he raised his voice. "What if we could still go on the mission?" Emma froze again. Without turning, she yelled, "You're a piece of shit!" "Shane said it's still in play," he continued. He could feel Emma sigh. "I hate you," she mumbled. "Hate me all you want," he toyed. "You still want Johnny back as much as I do." "I'm not going to leave my sister behind." "You're right," Jordan agreed, finally deciding it was safe enough to approach her again. "It's 1 PM and you're skipping school to practice your knife throwing." Emma grit her teeth. "I left right after you did," she admitted. "I couldn't take it anymore." "And did coming home make any difference for Margot?" he wondered aloud. Emma dropped her eyes. "Look, I know our momentum is screwed, but you and I both know Johnny's still alive. Shane's convinced of it too." Jordan looked at her, pleading. "He's willing to let me go as one last service to the company." Emma took another hard breath, then looked up into his dead eye. "What about Margot? Get Andrew to sign on. Shane said he'd pull strings to make it happen." Seeing the confusion in her eyes, he added, "He already trained with us. Besides, he made us better than we were without him. All you need to do is talk to him." Emma shook her head. "All I need to do..." "Do you want to find Johnny or not?" he yelled. "Yeah, of course I want to find him," she returned. "I just hadn't even thought..." "You're such a liar," he prodded. "Stop playing Margot's noble sister and help me get him back." Emma threw up her hands. "Hurry!" "Fine," she conceded, wiping them down her exhausted face. "But do you really think the others will go for it?" "I'll talk to them," he said. "You talk to Andrew and get him on board." "And what about Margot?" Emma raised. "You're not leaving her like that. I'm not letting you run off to South America to get yourself killed without saying goodbye." "You and I both know there's zero chance of a threat down there," he reminded. "And what? That's not allowed unless the company takes me by force?" Emma's jaw clenched even harder. "You're not abandoning my sister to disappear halfway around the world," she repeated. "Why not?" he wanted to scream. "My parents both did that to me." Instead, he calmed and stated, "I would never do that." He looked up at the house, finding Margot's window. "If your mom ever lets me have the chance, I'll talk to her." "We'll make that part of my list then," Emma offered. "All right," Jordan finalized. "I promise I won't leave without making things right." Emma shook her head. "You can never make things right," she declared. "You're right," he agreed shamefully. "But I can certainly try." Emma doubled down. "Just because I'm on your side about Johnny doesn't mean I can forgive what you did." Jordan nodded in somber agreement. You're right, he said again. But when I'm gone and you have Johnny back, maybe you can try and remember that I helped do that too. He was waiting patiently in the dressing room when Xander and Kent both entered for training. Kent eyed him curiously before moving to his locker. I was thinking I'd have Xander to myself today, he joked. Xander barely acknowledged Jordan's presence. He walked over to his own bay, throwing his clipboard down before marching off to the bathroom. Jordan waited for him to return. I need to talk to you about something, he started. Both of you. Kent turned optimistic. You found a way out of it? His naivety was almost endearing. No, Jordan sighed. It's about Johnny. They both snapped to attention, Xander perking up so much like a dog that it was almost comical. Stop, he ordered. Whatever you're planning on saying, save us all the trouble and stop now. You don't understand, Jordan urged. We can still... No, Xander scolded. Xander, you're not even... You abandoned any responsibility you have for your brother long before we buried your son, he hissed, pain spreading across his face. Your only priority for the rest of your time in this company is Margot. Wendy won't even let me see her, Jordan screamed, loud enough that they could have heard him in the hallway. You all sound exactly the same. I'm not a child, Xander. I'm 15. Xander shook his head parentally. You all think I'm too stupid to make my own decisions. Well, guess what? I made one stupid decision and it snowballed. I'm sorry. Okay? He felt himself snap. I don't think you realize how sorry I am. How painfully aware of everything that mistake has caused. Xander, I haven't slept in 3 days. I don't know how or if I'll ever sleep again because the reality of my situation is beyond anything you or anyone else in this godforsaken company has ever had to deal with. He threw his hands over his face and began to cry. Can you imagine what happens if they don't send me to France? He asked rhetorically. Xander, if I wake up without my memories, I will starve. Do you realize that? No one is going to help me. I'm literally on death row waiting for them to pull the trigger over some, let me say it, stupid law. I don't even have the chance to correct my mistake because the company values keeping its perfect order over rehabilitating anyone who screws up. Do you know how much pressure that is? He threw his hands up, not expecting an answer. Xander stood there, his face fuming. Yes, he stated bluntly. I do. Do you think you're the only person who has to live under those rules? Here's a fact check for you, Jordy. We're all held to the same standard. Just because you couldn't manage to live between the lines doesn't mean the rest of us can't. Living between the lines? Jordan screamed. Xander, they're suing Liz's family to save their own asses. It's not about justice, it's about who has the power to get away with it. Oh, and I'm supposed to pity the 15-year-old who doesn't have the power to escape the repercussions of his actions? Are you even listening to yourself? He went on, trying to calm himself down. Even if I could escape dismissal, do you think I could ever escape what happened? He looked at Kent, whose face was gray. Look at Margot. Nobody will ever look at her the same. No one who knows a thing about her will ever be able to look past what happened. And when she tries to replace me... His voice broke. No guy's ever going to look at her without seeing her as broken. Don't you think I know that? Xander swallowed hard. Je plus grande et mieux, Jordan recited. My dad used to say I was destined for greater things than him. Same as he was with his dad and his dad before him. He closed his eyes. I'll never get the chance, he sobbed. The only thing I have left to give is a chance at saving my brother and bringing him home safe. As he broke down, Kent caught him, wrapping his arms around him and letting Jordan fall onto his shoulder in tears. The weight of the world was crashing on top of him, but Kent held him steady on his feet. For minutes, there was nothing else that mattered. Tell us how, Kent finally whispered when Jordan finally stopped crying. He stepped back and wiped his eyes, looking at the other two with surprised curiosity. Even Xander lacked the menace he had held only minutes before. Jordan took a deep breath, then recited Shane's plan. He's allowing you to go, and Andrew to replace Margot? Xander clarified. Jordan nodded. How's he getting that past Schuler? I don't know, he admitted. But he said he was going to make it happen. Xander sighed. It's not right, he repeated. We can't just leave Margot behind and hunt down your brother. You think I don't know that? Jordan laughed, exhausted. Xander, what choice do I have? It's either do this or sit and wait for them to disappear me. The room fell completely silent. Even without his effect, Jordan could have felt the other two breathing. Please, he grimaced, realizing how barren his words sounded. It's the last thing I can ever ask of you. Kent grit his teeth, nodding without looking to Xander for approval. I'm with you, he agreed. Every step of the way. Jordan turned to Xander. Despite his stoic demeanor, he almost seemed to relish taking his time to answer. Another minute swayed between them. Fine, he shrugged. But only if Margot agrees.